Invite a Budget Blinds style consultant to show you how to transform your rooms just by changing your window coverings. Canada's #1 choice for window coverings. Visit budgetblinds.ca today.
This is Newcap News with Bart Pediasic.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. 3 people are in custody as Lloydminster RCMP investigate a violent vehicle theft in the border city. Just after 2 a.m. this morning in the 4700 of 44th Street, 2 victims were pulled from their vehicle by a number of suspects and assaulted. The suspects then took off with the vehicle, which was later recovered by RCMP. 1 victim is in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the incident doesn't appear to be a random act, and anyone with information about this is asked to call the Lloydminster Detachment at 780-808-8400 or Crime Stoppers. While many different Remembrance Day celebrations took place across the country, the Lloydminster branch of the Royal Canadian Legion held their annual Remembrance Day ceremony on Wednesday. Hundreds of border city residents gathered at the Lloydminster Comprehensive High School auditorium to honor our veterans, as well as those who continue to risk their lives for our freedom. Nicole Stilger has more.
It's a packed house at the J.J. Giesbrecht Auditorium, where those in attendance gathered for the time-honored Remembrance Day ceremony.
I was really glad to see so many come out today. We have to remember those who have served our country and continue to serve, especially those who paid the supreme sacrifice to give us the freedoms that we enjoy today.
The traditional ritual included a moment of silence, prayers, and a wreath-laying ceremony, but the day took on a special meaning for everyone.
My aunt, she's in the military. She's currently serving. She's what inspired me to join cadets. It's an absolute honor to come take part in such a ceremony and just enjoy and remember what people did for us.
My grandpa was in the war, so it means a lot to me.
With poppies worn proudly, the crowd listened as Hemingway read the names of those from the Lloydminster area who gave their lives in service.
W. Gayford, C.J. George, C. Gilchrist.
But whether young or old, the meaning of Remembrance Day was not lost on anyone. And as Hemingway stresses, it's important that the spirit of November 11th carries on through the next generations.
It's critical that young people attend these services because they have to carry on the remembrance from here on forward.
Nicole Stilger, Newcap News.
It's a promise we keep every year on November 11th. We honor those who gave their lives for the freedoms and values Canadians hold dear. As Hannah Tita explains, Cold Lake saw one of their biggest turnout to date at their annual Remembrance Day ceremony.
It was a solemn and emotional day for the thousands who attended the ceremony. Veterans, serving members of the Canadian Air Force, and residents bowed their heads in silence with poppies pinned close to their hearts, remembering those who paid the supreme sacrifice for this country.
It's heartwarming to think that the community was behind the whole program. I call it a program because so many things took place, so many.
Last year I was in Kuwait as part of Operation Impact as their task force commander, and we held a ceremony on Remembrance Day, and they were very appreciative and actually quite awed with what we do to recognize our veterans, because not all nations do it to the same extent as we do.
Nearly a century after the armistice that ended the First World War, the personal cost of modern warfare is still prominent, especially on the four-wing base.
Too often, things are forgotten. We put our lives on the line. Doesn't matter what branch we served in, we all serve in some form. I'm glad to see that there's that many people coming out, and you see it across Canada.
I think Canada is a very special place. I know that if the call came, my grandchildren would be doing what we did.
Hannah Tita, Newcap News.
Switching gears now. For centuries, the art of Tai Chi has been practiced by people in China and all over the world. The ancient tradition began as a martial art, and through the years, various health benefits started to emerge. In this week's Healthy Living, Krisha Khan has a look into the age-old exercise.
It's been great. It's been one of the best things I've ever picked up in my life.
Shane Papke has been taking Tai Chi classes for roughly 9 months, a practice he has learned to know and love. Now, many of you may have heard of the name Tai Chi, but aren't too familiar with what it exactly is.
So it's a set of slow and complete movements from ancient China.
Movements that may look similar from what you would see in a kung fu action film, except for the fact that these movements are done in slow motion. So how exactly can this bring any health benefit?
Balance, of course, especially in our climate as we age. Falls are a leading cause of bone breakages and eventual infirmities.
Now, balance is not the only beneficial aspect.
Circulation of blood, lymph, and energy affect all the body systems. So, this is good for a whole variety of conditions.
According to the Harvard Medical School, this low-impact, slow-motion exercise appears to be helpful when combined with standard treatment, benefiting an array of medical conditions.
I'm working muscles that I don't usually work and exercising muscles that I don't usually exercise.
Basically, it benefits the entire body.
As complex as it may seem, anyone can do it.
It's very simple to learn, but not necessarily easy.
Krisha Khan, Newcap News.
Well, with winter approaching for producers, many are still thinking about that drought that the prairies experienced this year. As Gerard Lampeau explains, the dry weather affected the price and availability of hay, so cattle producers are looking at different feeding options for their herd in the cold months.
How many animals do you need to feed? For how long?
Feeding large numbers of animals is always a challenge. Add to that a dry growing season and it has implications for the choices facing cattle producers as they seek to feed their herd this winter.
So this year we're going to probably feed a lot more cereal green feed than we have in the past, just because the hay was such a poor crop.
It takes about 20 to 30 years for people to get a herd together that they really like.
Decades of breeding to get the right genetic mix are at risk. It's hard to give up a good stock. Producers will be looking at how much feed they have and then working backwards to select which animals to let go.
I don't think our cow herd will decrease by too much, but we may have to market our calves a little sooner than we have in the past, just to try and conserve some feed.
One of the big options that farmers are using or ranchers are using is they're going to be feeding 15, 18, 20 pounds of straw a day to the cows, along with 8 pounds of grain and a pound of protein supplement, and that'll provide a ration that's suitable for a cow that's in mid and late pregnancy.
Your MCO says ranchers need to feed test unconventional rations before introducing it to all of the animals.
If they don't feed their cows properly over this winter and maintain body condition, they will have reproduction problems next year, so the following calf crop could potentially be a lot smaller.
Your MCO says the implications of poor nutrition may not become apparent for another 2 years. Producers like Brian Wack are thankful for their grain-growing neighbors who have helped through the drought. But as ranchers battle costs, they will be prudent with their final choices.
Yeah, the price of hay is up there pretty good, but what do you do?
Gerard Lampeau, Newcap News.